Welcome to Skyrocketing Your Lead Generation Online, your masterclass series on how to fill your sales pipeline with a consistent stream of high-paying clients. Your straight-up resource for actionable advice and mindset that will take you one step closer to generating consistent leads online into your business. I'm your host, Anjana Lal, and today we have Abraham Heisler, CEO of Internal Leverage. He is a mindset and performance coach who helps entrepreneurs develop more focus and clarity in their businesses by unlocking flow states. Abraham has spent the last 20 years researching the connection between mind, body, and business, and has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs increase their income and impact by accessing more of their potential. One of the most powerful tools Abraham uses with his clients is breathwork, an active breathing technique that wipes away fear and anxiety while cultivating a sense of certainty. A 10-year research shows that executives who access this state increase productivity and creativity by 500%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm so excited to welcome you, Abraham. Thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So today we are going inward to look at inner strategies, that softer side, which is crucial in helping our businesses thrive. We are going to be talking about how to reduce stress and increase profitability through a powerful source called Breathwork. Yeah. But before we get into that conversation, Abraham, tell us a little bit about your story, how your journey started and how you ended up doing what you're doing today.
Thank you. So interesting kind of twist and turn of events, as I'm sure is the case with many people that you're speaking to. For the last 20 years, I've been doing a deep dive of meditation and yoga and psychology. I was in film for a long time. I was working with actors, doing screenwriting, also teaching film all around the world. So East, hemisphere, West, up, North, South, everything, all over. But I always knew that I wanted to facilitate some sort of personal growth work and really teach people these types of modalities. And so I started my business a few years ago. And with the help of a mindset and sales coach and business coaches and things like that, I was able to grow my business rather quickly to at least the six-figure mark. And after doing that, I realized, wow, the mindset, the performance strategies, all this factored into the results that I was getting in my business. And this is what I want to be showing people. So over the last couple of years now, I've been teaching mindset, but then also teaching performance strategies like breathwork to help entrepreneurs really get their internal game correct so that they're able to show up and not just scale their business, but their life. Because ultimately, when you're an entrepreneur, especially a solo entrepreneur, your business is a reflection of you.
Absolutely. So for our listeners who are unfamiliar on breathwork can you explain what it is and how it is a game changer for them?
Yeah, totally. So it's funny because I'm in Los Angeles, and if you go to Venice in California here and you throw a rock, you'll hit like 10 breathwork people, right? Everybody knows about it in Los Angeles, but out there in the entrepreneurial world, in the business setting, this is something very new to people. And people are having just incredible experiences doing this. So as you explained, breathwork is an active breathing. So normally most people throughout our lives, we just breathe very shallow into our chest, right? And the problem with that is that we're actually not being resourceful and not taking advantage of our full entire lung capacity, which I love the metaphor of that. In that, people have a tendency to get stuck in a certain way of thinking, and they're not actually taking advantage of all the resources that are available to us. And as an entrepreneur, we have to be resourceful. So I don't want to, leave that metaphor off the table. It's really important. So it's an active breathing technique where we engage the diaphragm, we breathe deep into the diaphragm. And what's happening on a neurobiological level is that we start shifting the hormones that are getting secreted in our body. So when somebody is in stress, when somebody is in burnout, their body's secreting cortisol. It's the stress hormone, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's shallow breathing. Think of somebody having a panic attack. They breathe very shallow, very quick. They don't oxygenate the body. It releases more cortisol and creates this panic, sort of thinking that just leads to more of the same cycle. So that active breathing is to break that, right? To break free of that constriction and that contraction and to step into this expansion where you feel peaceful, you feel calm. The body starts secreting hormones like, endorphins, anandamide, which is the hormone that makes us feel good, oxytocin, serotonin, all the hormones that is the cocktail for success, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've experienced it with you over the last, few times that I've started working, with you and following your technique. So I've definitely felt it. And so I'm really excited for you to be able to share it with our listeners here as well, because, what benefits do entrepreneurs experience by practicing that active breathing that you talked about?
Mm. Well, I mean, first and foremost, it starts with your own personal experience, right? If you're stressed and overwhelmed, then it's going to be very difficult to be productive, to be successful in any endeavor, right? And that whole study that you quoted, that actually comes from the Flow Genome Project. So Stephen Kotler, who's doing a lot of amazing research and compiling the research that's being done by Harvard, by DARPA, by various different institutions. And they saw that so for instance, this breathing technique, essentially what it does is it replicates what you would get from maybe 2 hours of running or 3 hours of deep meditation, right? That sort of flow state. Think of Michael Jordan when he gets on the basketball court, he's so honed, like his body, his muscles, everything is just honed so that when he's on that court, he just enters into the zone. And that's what we want. But the problem, obviously, is that we don't have time to run a marathon, right? We don't have time to practice 1,000 hours with our free throws. So we need a technique like breathwork, and it's the quickest technique that I know to help people to enter into that flow state. What is known in neurobiology as transient hypofrontality, which sounds like a mouthful, but really what it means is that it's a shutting down, or at least a relaxing of the prefrontal cortex. That's where all of the analysis happens, the rationalization, which is good. We need that. However, a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in their heads. And I'm sure you can relate, Anja. I know that I've experienced this all the time myself, is that there's a difficult decision and we go back and forth. What about this? And how we looked at this? And we get caught in that analysis paralysis. And unfortunately, it slows us down, right? And can actually create procrastination. It can create self-doubt, worry. It can actually give rise to that inner critic that we all have in the back of our heads, doubting everything that we do. And so if you study the successful people like, so for instance, Elon Musk, he has a rapid fire machine gun decision-making ability, right? He'll walk down SpaceX or Tesla and he'll have to just fire off decisions left and right. And he doesn't get caught up on it, right? Mm-hmm. There's actually a quote in the Science of, not the Science of Getting Rich, Think and Grow Rich, that says something that, like, to the effect of successful people make decisions quickly and change their mind slowly, whereas unsuccessful people make decisions slowly but change their mind quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that is so true. And you make better decisions, right, from that state of flow right. And calm, rather than overwhelm, stress, burnout. So breathwork, like, from my experience, like, it's been amazing for me. Like, as you mentioned, I'm so busy. I have 100 emails coming in. I have so many people reaching out because I do a lot of outreach through my LinkedIn, and that those messages and people wanting things left, right, and center. Just having that state of flow and being able to respond exactly like you mentioned is key.
Yeah.
So how can breathwork affect our levels of stress and help us to become more profitable as entrepreneurs? Like, when it comes to, high-end clients, when it comes to attracting those leads that are going to get us to be that next, get us to reach our goals.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing that I'm really fascinated by, is the potential that breath work and flow state has for increasing that bottom line.
Yeah.
And and so here's the thing. I have led breath work live in front of hundreds of entrepreneurs. I've by now, worked with over 1,000 entrepreneurs at least, leading them through these breathing techniques. Mm-hmm. And aside from that initial, wow, I feel good, I don't feel stressed, I feel more clear. Aside from that, what's really interesting is when I get stories that come in, like, so for instance, I was at a seminar recently where I led the breathing exercises, and a woman stopped halfway through, jumped up out of her seat and ran out the room. it turned out that she was running out because she finally had the clarity and the inner confidence to go make some sales calls that she had been avoiding.
Wow.
And sure enough, she made the calls and she booked a few deals. I mean, she couldn't believe it. Because again, when you're in your normal waking state and the brain waves are in beta state, we have a tendency to sort of doubt ourselves and really doubt what is possible.
Yeah.
But when we enter into that flow state, that transient hypofrontality, and you're not double thinking, right? You're not overthinking it. You're acting on the intuitive sort of impulses that you have on who it is that you need to reach out to, what it is that you need to do, the clarity, the confidence that you need to have when you're entering into a high ticket sales conversation. And I have a background in sales, and so I know all about the need to really show up and bring your best self forward, right? That's a big part of what the performance coaching is all about, is how to help people to really get into that flow state, into that peak state, so that they maximize their ability to influence another person and convey that level of certainty, which is necessary for closing deals and creating, strategic partnerships. So, yeah, I mean, just to sort of like punch this home, it's the two things that I find really that help entrepreneurs, when it comes to the breath work, is one, that clarity and certainty, and then two is those aha moments, right? A lot of times, I can't tell you the amount of times, even just last week, I was on a call with a client and he was saying, look, I'm a little bit stuck. I can't figure out where, the next contract's going to come from or who's in the pipeline. Like, I'm just not, I'm stuck. And he was, stuck for quite some time until we did the breath work. After the breathing exercises, he realized, oh, I hadn't thought about this other person. Oh, wait. And there's this other thing that I wasn't paying attention to before, right?
Yeah.
Because when we're in that sort of cortisol loop, or we're stressed, we're overwhelmed, it's almost like we have a blindfold on and we're not seeing the various opportunities, right? We're not taking advantage of all the resources that are fully available to us. Just like I was saying before, we're not breathing in that oxygen, which is the most available resource there is. And it's a great metaphor for life, right? When you do this breath work, when you get into that flow state, one, you're able to see the resources that are here for you and see the opportunities and have those aha moments. And then two, you're able to step forward confidently, close a deal, feel, really firm about whatever it is that you're charging, and not, second guess yourself. And so those two things combined has really opened the door to a lot of amazing testimonials from entrepreneurs who have done the breath work and then gotten out there into business.
I can only imagine, because I've experienced it myself, and I notice as well, like when I do a round of breath work before I even, jump onto a sales call, it rubs off onto my prospect, like it's the energy that you bring. It's like, how you mentioned, you feel like I feel like I've just, run a mile or run 5 miles, because of the fact that it's the energy, it's the flow, it's that feel good hormone. And I believe it's picked up by the people that, like you're talking to when you're on a sales call. They get that energy.
I would love to add one more thing to that. And I think when I really started to see this take off was when I went to a mastermind. A guy, he's a business coach. His name is Andrew Cruzy, and he teaches people how to build their business organically online. And I showed up at that mastermind. He was, just building his business at the time. And I led the breathing technique, right? And there was a small group of people, about 20 people. And we did the breathing technique. Afterwards, people felt this really powerful sense of clarity, this like breakthrough. There was more intimacy and connection. All the things that are necessary whenever there's the opportunity to make a commitment, a financial commitment, to make a buying decision, especially, on a high ticket sort of level, right? So when it came for this guy to make his offer, all of a sudden, a lot more people stepped in confidently. And it was the first time that he was able to do 6 figures in one weekend. Yeah. Fast forward a half a year later, and he had a 200-person event, his first ever. And I'm up on stage doing the breath work, leading, facilitating, doing a deep dive of the type of breathing that we do. At that event, they did over 7 figures in revenue. Yeah. And, Andrew, he attributes a big part of that, and his team attributes a big part of that to this work, to this ability to put people into a state where they're absolutely clear. Their objections are already resolved because it's, they feel much more confident. So it's not just on the side of whoever's making sales and doing the prospecting, but on the side of prospects, for them to feel more confident and clear about what solutions they need and what's going to serve their life, their business, so on and so forth, so they can more confidently step into that commitment.
Absolutely. And I love what you say about connection, because connection really is the new currency, right? That's what gets people shifting into making those decisions and to ultimately feel comfortable in working with you. And it works bifold, like for the service provider as well as the client. So our breath has a powerful effect on our physical, emotional, and mental state, which I find amazing because, this mindset is one thing, but the fact that our breath has that powerful effect on all three of those, how do we cultivate the breath to get these benefits?
So it's difficult to be doing this active breathing all day long, and that's actually not what it's for. Just like exercise, if you can do a really intense, incorporate that into your routine, like an intense hour once a day or a few times a week, then you'll receive the benefits.
Yeah.
So what I do, there's two sort of levels. One is the introductory level, or the sort of 5 to 10 minute exercises that you can do in the morning or before you get onto a sales conversation. One of those exercises I'll actually demonstrate for you in a moment. And then there's a few others that are, available online with some of the materials that I have online. That's a great way just to kind of keep the momentum and allow yourself to really have more agency in deciding what it is that you want to be feeling. Because let's face it, we don't wake up, jazzed up and ready to go. It takes time for us to warm up, which is why more and more people are realizing the importance of having a morning routine, right?
Absolutely.
So incorporating just 5 minutes of this active breathing into your morning routine every day is enough to give somebody the benefits and really allow them to see what is possible when they start to access this more and more.
Yeah. And are the results quite instant, or, what's the typical time, wait time for someone to start?
Oh yeah. It's quick.
I know that to be true for me, but from your experience with some people, because I've always, I'm into this stuff. I love it. And I'm totally for it. But the people that are a little bit skeptical and maybe never tried it before or think it's woo woo, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I love talking about the neuroscience of it, the sort of biochemistry, because some people, again, you throw a stone in Venice, you hit 10 breathwork teachers and they're going to say angels are coming and this, but that's one interpretation, that's one languaging of it. But what's really happening is that we're changing our biochemistry.
Yeah.
For me, I love to see people walk into the room who think, oh, this is woo woo or whatever, we're just going to relax, and I might get like a little calm feeling, and then all of a sudden, because the thing is, it's breath work, it takes work, and so when I really work with people, I push them quite hard like a coach would. Seeing the transformation that happens even within 1 hour. I've had people go into this practice cold, come out on the other end, they'd say, one of my favorite quotes is, it feels like I went through 10 years of therapy in 1 hour.
So powerful.
Yeah. So when it comes to how quickly can you see the results, I'm talking within minutes. You'll feel it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And so when is the best time to practice? Would you say morning, like to prime yourself with the breathwork in the morning first?
Yep. So that's a great question. There's actually different types of breathwork practices I teach. So I have one for the morning, one for the afternoon, one for the evening, and then one for anytime you're feeling a little bit off and you got to bring yourself back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But definitely in the morning, as part of a morning routine, as part of a priming practice.
Yeah.
I would say if you're going to do it once a day, definitely in the morning.
In the morning. Awesome. So you and I talked about you taking our listeners through an exercise so they can experience your approach of breathwork right here, right now. I am super excited for what you're about to guide us through today.
Yeah. Awesome. So this is just skimming the surface. This is really just to get people to, I guess, have a little handshake with the practice, or just sort of kiss the surface. Before I teach this, though, I would like to say there is no, negative side effects to doing this this practice, this work. I would recommend, however, if you're pregnant, if you have a heart condition, if you have chronic asthma, or anything else that really compromises you, then this might not be the practice, because again, it's an active breathing technique. It's not like a yin yoga relaxation. This is something that is kind of like, it's almost like exercise. So I just wanted to put that out there. The other thing is that it's absolutely important that you do this with some intention, like you're sitting down or you're lying down. You're not just cooking, operating heavy machinery, driving, carrying a baby, anything like that, because we are, again, we're shifting our brain waves and our mental state, right? And we'll enter into what's called a non-ordinary state, where it's kind of similar to sleep. It's not like, you know, tripping on drugs or anything. It's all natural, but it takes some time to come back to a normal waking state. So make sure that when you practice this, that you have a few moments where you don't have to jump up and be responsible for anything. So I just wanted to state that, because safety first, always and obviously, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so essentially what we're gonna do, the breathing technique is a 2-part in-breath. So what I would love for our listeners to do is to do it along with us. We're gonna place one hand on our stomach and one hand on our chest. I'm gonna try not to touch the microphone, but right where that microphone is on my stomach, on my chest, that's where we're gonna be touching. And when you breathe in, we're gonna breathe in through the mouth, not through the nose. When we breathe in, we want to breathe all the way down into our diaphragm. And if we do it properly, our stomach is going to expand. So it's going to look like Santa Claus, right? I want to see that pot belly. So no beach bod, no abs. I just want to see 80% into the diaphragm, 20% into the chest. And then the release is just a very subtle release. It's almost like drawing back an arrow and letting it go. Okay? So what we'll do is we'll do about 30 rounds of that type of breathing. And then we're gonna pause, hold the air out for a few moments, and then take a deep breath in, all right? And just for fun, if I'm able to, I'll share a little bit of background music.
Yeah.
Because the music helps us to go a little bit deeper and relax and start to feel the technique. The main thing I would ask for people, again, this is just sort of a scratching the surface kind of exercise. Just do it, play with it, try it, experiment, see how you feel. Don't have any expectation that you're gonna go and close $10,000 in, you know, contracts like the next day or whatever it is. Just be present in the moment, okay? All right, so let's try it. So let me put some tunes on. And let's go ahead and find a nice comfortable position, either sitting down or lying down. You're okay, Anj. One hand on stomach, one hand on chest, and we're gonna begin. So it's gonna look like this. So that's 8. We'll do a few more rounds just like that. Good, 16 more. Eight more. 4 more. On the last one, we're gonna breathe all the way in and then all the way out and hold the oxygen out of the body. So taking a deep breath in, holding the air out, allowing ourselves the opportunity just to be present in this moment. You might feel a little lightheaded, and that's fine, that's normal. Normally we hold the air out for about a good 45 seconds to 1 minute, but for the sake of time, let's go ahead and take a deep breath in on the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. So taking a deep breath into the mouth, and hold. And release. So that's one round of what I call overcoming procrastination. Idea being that doing this type of breathing, you can develop more of that initiative to just take action. Like that woman who just stood up and ran outside and started making the phone calls. You bypassed the inner critic, the self-doubt, the fear, the worry, the anxiety, and you just get straight to it and you start taking action. What I would recommend for anybody doing that is you do it at least 3 times. So we did 1 full round, right? Or 1 set. And I would recommend doing 3 sets. And then I guarantee by the end of that, about 5-6 minutes in, maybe 10 minutes, again, you feel like you took a bath. You feel like all of a sudden a whole new person, right? Some clarity, some more focus and confidence and all the other benefits that we mentioned before. What are you feeling right now, Anj?
Thanks. I feel good. I almost feel like I've taken like a cat nap, and I just feel centered. You know, I mean, I do those 3 rounds that you talk about, and I love it. I find it transformational, and just that difference of breathing through the diaphragm as opposed, you know, we're also used to heavy chest breathing. Especially when we feel anxious, and I think you mentioned to me once that adults tend to do that, right? And then when you're a child, children tend to have that big belly because they breathe through their stomachs naturally, right. And so like it's just, you know, getting back in touch with that child state, just that breathing effectively. It's I've found it really transformational. I feel good. I love doing it.
On that note, you know, another important aspect of this is that what we're doing is we're actually giving ourselves more permission.
Yeah, true.
And throughout our everyday life, you know, we have this sort of controlling governor in our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that keeps telling us these messages. No, I can't say that. I can't do this thing, or I shouldn't do that, or that person might be angry if I did that. And so this is an opportunity when we enter that transient hyperfrontality, we shut that part down that's constantly thinking, what are other people going to think, right? How is this going to be affecting other people? And we actually just start showing up more impactfully. And what that does naturally is it increases influence. And it actually, according to that Marianne Williamson quote about, you know, our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate, it's that we're more powerful beyond measure. We give permission to others to also shine their light and to feel that permission. So when you're in a sales conversation, you're not holding back and you're not limiting yourself. You're also giving permission for that person to really express themselves as well. Yeah. So that's when that connection happens, and that's where all of a sudden the magic really starts to transpire.
Yeah, I love that. And what I love about it also is it also helps you to, I mean, you embrace your strengths, of course, but it also helps you to embrace your shadow side, right? And really use that to leverage in those conversations as well.
100%.
Yeah. So Abraham, you have a gift to share with our audience today. Can you tell us a little bit more about your generous gift?
Yeah, it's a guided breathwork, pretty much what we just did, but it's a video, it's an animated, well, it's me explaining it and plus an animated version where you can follow along and basically practice it every morning. So
yeah, I love that. And in fact, I downloaded that myself because, and I find, you know, if people out there do struggle with the breath work, because it does take a bit of figuring it out, right? It does take a bit of getting that coordination down of that breath that you just, the exercise that you just took us through. So the visual that goes along with it, I found was really, really beneficial. So
awesome.
go for it, guys. You know, click on the link below that will take you directly to where you can download it, and give it a go. It is truly transformational. So
Yeah.
so Abraham, if you're going to leave our listeners with one last piece of advice or actionable step, what would that be?
Before I answer that question, I just want to also add that the breath work, one thing that we didn't talk about is a sort of side benefit. It's that there's studies that show that with this active deep breathing, you can increase your immunity, right? You can boost your immune system, which is, something that is quite actually welcome in this day and age, right? We're all looking for ways to be healthy and boost immunity. And so just so people know, when they click on that link, it's going to take them to a page that talks more about the immune side of things rather than the business aspect side of things. So it's actually a separate funnel, but it's still the same technique, the same guided breath work. So I just wanted to make that clear. Your last question, what was the question about?
If you were to leave our listeners with just one last piece of advice or actionable step, what would that be?
This is what I'm telling everybody these days. I love the breath work as a metaphor for what we're experiencing right now. With COVID-19, with the uncertainty that's out there, there's that tendency naturally to go into fight or flight, or to freeze and to constrict in our body, in our thoughts, in our feelings. I've experienced this. I'm not immune to it. And instead of, being a victim of that fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system, my encouragement is that we do whatever it takes. The breath work on the physiological level, on a mindset, we shift our thinking, our perspective in such a way that we actually take this as opportunity to really expand ourselves, right? Just like in the breathing, we want to expand our thinking, our lives, our business, and be the leaders that we're waiting for, because right now is the time. And I know it's not always possible to live up to that. I know there's a lot of challenges in life, and yet more than ever, I feel like there is a call, there's a need for the people listening to this, the people that I think are attracted to the circles that we vibe in, to really do whatever they can to step up, even when it's uncertain and unclear what the future is, and really embrace the gifts that we do have to offer.
That's an awesome last piece of advice. Thank you so much. And thank you so much also for coming on today and sharing your wisdom and experience and insights with our audience. It's been truly awesome having you here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to those of you tuning in, be sure to come back tomorrow for the next masterclass on skyrocketing your lead generation online. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye for now.